Nightmare Shift, a haunting at the retail store. The clock struck midnight, and the retail store fell into a haunting silence. Sarah reluctantly began her night shift, dreading the thought of being alone in the vast expanse of shelves and racks. The dim lights cast eerie shadows that seemed to dance around her, playing tricks on her weary mind. As the hours passed, Sarah heard strange noises echoing through the empty aisles. Soft footsteps, faint whispers, and the occasional sound of shelves being moved filled the air. She tried to convince herself that it was just her imagination, but an unsettling feeling settled in her chest. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of movement. She turned quickly, but there was nothing there. Her heart raced, and she took a deep breath, trying to remain composed. "It's just fatigue," she reassured herself. The store's intercom crackled to life, startling her. A distorted voice echoed through the speakers, saying cryptic phrases that sent shivers down her spine. Sarah rushed to the intercom, trying to turn it off, but the switch wouldn't budge. The haunting voice continued, growing louder and more malevolent with each passing moment. Feeling trapped, Sarah decided to retreat to the back office, hoping to find some respite. As she approached the door, it swung open on its own, as if beckoning her inside. Reluctantly, she stepped in and locked the door behind her, seeking solace in the confined space. In the eerie silence of the office, Sarah heard an unsettling laughter that seemed to resonate from the walls. Panicking, she tried to call for help, but her phone had no signal. Fear tightened its grip around her, and she knew she was not alone in that room. Through the frosted glass of the office door, she saw faint figures moving in the store. They appeared and disappeared, like ghosts wandering aimlessly through the aisles. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, and she felt a cold sweat forming on her forehead. Attempting to compose herself, she ventured back out onto the sales floor, determined to finish her shift and leave this nightmare behind. As she walked past a row of mirrors, she caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure behind her. The figure's eyes glowed red, and it reached out towards her with bony, skeletal fingers. Sarah let out a blood-curdling scream and sprinted towards the store's exit. But as she reached for the door handle, it wouldn't budge. Panic consumed her, and she turned to find the figure standing right behind her, its malevolent grin inches away from her face. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the store into darkness. In the pitch black, Sarah felt a cold, clammy hand gripping her shoulder, pulling her towards the depths of the store. She struggled, but the unseen force was overpowering. Just when she thought all hope was lost, the lights flickered back on, and the grip on her shoulder vanished. Gasping for breath, she found herself standing at the store's entrance. The sun was rising on the horizon, and the night shift was finally over. As Sarah stumbled out of the store, she couldn't shake the feeling that something malevolent still lingered within those walls. From that night on, she vowed never to return to the retail store at night, for she knew she had encountered something truly terrifying that lurked in the shadows after dark. Night Terrors, the Beast at the Gas Station. The night hung heavily over the gas station as the moon hid behind a thick blanket of clouds. It was a remote station, miles away from any sign of civilization. Jake, the lone attendant, felt a sense of unease settle in as he glanced out into the darkness beyond the gas station's faint glow. Throughout the night, strange sounds echoed around the deserted area. The creaking of trees, the distant howling of unseen creatures, and the occasional hoot of an owl sent chills down Jake's spine. He brushed it off as his imagination playing tricks on him, attributing it to the eerie silence that engulfed the gas station. As the hours passed, Jake's sense of isolation deepened. Suddenly, a low, guttural growl filled the air, drowning out all other sounds. It was a sound he had never heard before, something primal and terrifying. His heart raced, and a cold sweat coated his forehead as he tried to figure out the source. Peering through the window, he saw a pair of glowing, ember eyes staring back at him from the shadows. Panic surged through his veins as he realized he was not alone. There was something out there, something monstrous and hungry. The beast moved with an unnatural grace, its massive frame hidden mostly in the shadows. But what Jake could see was enough to fuel his nightmares for years to come. Long, razor-sharp claws scraped against the pavement, and its hulking form loomed closer to the gas station. Fearing for his life, Jake locked the station's doors and retreated to the back room, where he frantically dialed the police. But as he spoke to the dispatcher, the line crackled, and the connection was lost. He was on his own. The enormous creature circled the gas station, its heavy breathing sending tremors through the building. Jake knew he had to find a way to escape, to survive the night. In a desperate attempt, he crawled into the storage room, searching for anything he could use as a weapon. The beast's claws scraped against the metal door, making the hairs on Jake's neck stand on end. He clutched a metal pipe he found, his heart pounding in his chest. When the door finally gave way, the creature lunged, and Jake swung the pipe with all his might. But the blow only seemed to enrage the beast further. It let out a thunderous roar, and Jake realized that he was no match for the massive creature. As he prepared for the worst, the gas station's lights flickered, and the station plunged into darkness. In the blackness, the creature's glowing eyes seemed to float, and Jake's terror intensified. But then, the sound of police sirens cut through the night, and the creature retreated into the shadows. When the officers arrived, they found a shaken and terrified Jake, who could only mutter fragments of what he had witnessed. From that night on, the gas station remained abandoned, and no one dared to venture near it after dark. Whispers in the Night, a haunting encounter. On a moonless night in a small, secluded village, the streets were shrouded in darkness. Only a handful of flickering streetlights dared to pierce the obsidian veil, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance with malevolence. The villagers had long warned of strange happenings during the night, cautioning each other to stay indoors once the sun had set. Amelia, a curious young woman, couldn't resist the allure of the night's mysteries. Her friends spoke of eerie sounds and ghostly apparitions, but Amelia scoffed at their tales, dismissing them as mere superstitions. Intrigued, she decided to venture out into the night, determined to prove her friends wrong. As Amelia walked down the desolate streets, the chilling wind whispered sinister secrets in her ears. Goosebumps crawled up her arms, and the hairs on her neck stood on end. She felt a presence lurking in the shadows, as if someone, or something, was watching her every move. The village's old cemetery stood at the outskirts, a place said to be haunted by restless spirits. Amelia's heart pounded loudly as she approached the rusty iron gates. The cemetery's silence was overwhelming, making even the softest rustle of leaves sound like an echoing scream. Then, she heard it, a faint, mournful wail that sent shivers down her spine. Ignoring the voice of reason that begged her to turn back, Amelia followed the sound deeper into the graveyard. The eerie glow of the moon revealed tombstones adorned with moss, each one telling stories of lives long gone. Amelia's heart raced as she noticed a figure standing among the gravestones. A tall, shadowy silhouette swayed in the moonlight. She called out, but the figure didn't respond. As she moved closer, she noticed that the figure's skin seemed unnaturally pale, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. Fear clawed at Amelia's throat, urging her to flee, but something held her in place. The figure turned, revealing a ghastly visage that froze her in terror. It was a spectral being, with hollow eyes and a twisted smile that sent chills down her spine. The ghostly figure beckoned her closer, its voice a haunting melody that compelled her to obey. Her legs moved against her will, drawing her nearer to the ethereal creature. As she approached, the graveyard seemed to come alive with a cacophony of eerie whispers. Suddenly, a hand grasped Amelia's shoulder from behind, pulling her away from the ghostly being. It was one of the village elders, who had noticed her absence and followed her into the darkness. "Run," he urged, his voice filled with urgency. "You must never look into their eyes or heed their call." Amelia stumbled backward, breaking free from the spectral lure. She and the elder rushed away from the cemetery, the ghostly figure's haunting cries fading into the night. As they reached the safety of the village's lights, Amelia finally understood the true horror that lurked in the darkness. She had come face to face with the restless spirits that roamed the night, forever seeking company in the living. From that night on, Amelia heeded the village's warnings, for she knew that the darkness held secrets best left undisturbed. The haunting experience would forever be etched in her memory, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are meant to remain in the shadows.